Everybody. Okay, we are on 29A, 29A2. We'll start the Gemara. Yeah, we went back. We went back because we finished the fourth parak on Rosh Hashana. So we started a piece on the end of the third parak, a beautiful Mishnah we did yesterday. We're going to start Shabbat on Friday. And we're going to be moving this week. We're going to be moving around. We're going to do the Siyum Thursday night on Sukkah, and we're gonna start Shabbat on Friday. Masechta Shabbos on Friday. No, when we finish what, Shabbos? Oh, this. I mean, after we finish this, tomorrow and Thursday, most probably we have a piece in the first parak of Sukkah that we left. We have to finish, but it's like math about Sukkah. So it's math oriented Gemara that we put away for the end, and then after that we're going to start a new Masechta Shabbat all about Shabbat, all the different laws of Shabbat. It's going to be very interesting, but there's a book. Yeah, the books were ordered already. The books were ordered. Hopefully, it should be coming in any day now. So we'll be getting new. We're going to be getting more hardcover. We're going to get the hardcover, some hardcover books. Okay, we are on the Gemara 29A2. Tana Rabbana, the rabbis taught Hakol Chayavin B'Tkiya Shofar. As you know, Masechta Rosh Hashana, the large focus on the shofar, obviously. And comes the Breita, comes the rabbis and teach us that everybody, all men are obligated with Tkiyah Shofar, and it mentions David Cohen is obligated Tkiyah Shofar. It says that Ralph Batesh, it says the Kohanim are obligated, it says the Leviim are obligated, and it says the Israelim are obligated, and most probably the Israel. So it talks about the Kohanim, the Leviim, the Israelim, Gerim, someone who's a converted to Judaism, he's obligated in the mitzvah. Now, obviously, this has to be analyzed. What is the chidush? Right, 29A2. What do you have to tell me that a Kohen is obligated? Of course, a Kohen is obligated. Why would you think a Kohen is different than a Levi or Israel? Why does the Breita have to tell us that who's obligated in the shofar? Kohanim, Leviim, Yisraelim. Now, do you have to tell me that a Kohen and a Levi are obligated in the midst of honoring your parents? Do you got to tell me that? Or a Kohen and a Levi are honored to eat matzah on Pesach? You don't got to tell me Kohen and Levi are obligated. They're just part of everybody's. Okay. I think maybe people don't know in general that people's general responsibility, but Jews, as Jews, the Torah gave the mitzvos to Kohanim, Leviim, Yisrael, right? Now, there are certain mitzvot that are specific for Kohanim. A Kohen can't marry a divorcee, right? There's certain laws. Kohen gets truma. There's certain laws. Adam, if you want to send to the group that we're on, so there are certain laws that apply specific, but regarding shofar, the Torah says, blow the shofar. The Torah says it's a day of truah. Doesn't say the word shofar. It says it's a day of crying sound on the 7th month, the first day, which is Rosh Hashana. So why do you need to tell me, who's included in that responsibility? The Kohanim, the Leviim. And also, you can also ask the question about the Gerim. Why do you have to tell me that the converts aren't the converts? What? 29B, 29A2. 29A2 at the beginning of the Gemara, it's about the middle of the page, and I'll scroll. Now, why do you have to tell me that the Gerim, a convert, someone converts to Judaism, is obligated in all mitzvot, right? So that also has to be addressed. Why are you going to tell me that a convert is obligated in the blowing of the shofar? And also avodim mishuchrarim. Avodim mishuchrarim. If someone is a slave, meaning there's something called an Eved Kanani. An Eved Kanani is a non-Jewish person who sells himself as a slave to a Jew. Now the law is, if you sell yourself as a slave to a Jew, He has to get a circumcision, he has to go to the mikveh, and there's an acceptance of mitzvot like a woman. He's obligated in mitzvot like a woman. This Eved is not obligated in mitzvot, even though he's man, he's not obligated in mitzvot like a regular Jew. He's obligated like a woman. Now, but if he becomes free, then he's obligated like a regular man. So therefore, we say avodim mishuchorim, this Eved that was free, he's also obligated in the mitzvah shofar. But in essence, he's really a ger. In essence, he's really a convert. So obviously, what do you have to tell me? What's the chiddush in that? Also has to be addressed. Now, then we have someone called an androgynous. Androgynous is someone who has signs of male and female. And the question is, what status does this androgynous have? Someone who's born with these signs, it's rare, but it's something that could happen. He's up now, since he might be a man. Now remember, shofar, the obligation of blowing shofar is for men and not for women. Why aren't women obligated in the blowing of the shofar, right? Right, Adam? Why aren't women obligated in the shofar? Because it's a time-bound mitzvah. It's a positive commandment which has a specific time. So many time-bound mitzvahs like shofar, lulav, sukkah, women have no obligation, even though, but we have a custom that the women hear the shofar. But now this child, he's 13 years old, and you don't know, he has signs of a male and signs of a female. What is he? Does he have a status of a male? Does he have a status of a female? Or is he some other status? So he has to go ahead and also hear the shofar. Because since he might be a male, he might be obligated in the shofar. Now, then we have something called, we missed, tumtum. What's a tumtum? The tumtum is a person that his organs, male organs, certain things are covered up with a membrane, and we don't know what is it. So if it's covered up, since you don't know what he is, he's either a boy or he's a girl. In contrast to the androgynous, which has signs of both, and the question is, what is the status when you have signs of both? This guy doesn't have signs. He doesn't have signs of anything. It's not clear. It's covered up, and therefore, good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Rabbi.
So both these people have to go ahead and hear the shofar. Now, the Gemara continues. The Mishnah is saying, now, Misha Chetzio Eved v'Chetzio Ben Chorin. What happened if, let's say, you had a partner, you both owned a slave together, or you owned a slave completely, and you decided to free half the slave. So I'm going to make you half free, and obviously, what does the slave do when he's half free? Maybe if he's half free, maybe you'll make up with him one day. One day belongs to you, one day belongs to me. Whatever, however, there's a change of status. The slave no longer is fully a slave. Let's say if me and David are partners in a slave, and I write my slave a document of freedom. So now he now he has half, he owns half himself, and and the other half belongs to, he still retains ownership like my partner. And the Gemara says that he's stuck regarding marriage, because since he can't marry a regular Jew, so it's different, and we have to force the owner to free that he should be fully free. But that's a separate situation. But this guy who's half free and half a slave, because half of him is free and he's a man, he has an obligation to hear the shofar. That half of him, so to speak, that part of him that's a free man, needs to hear a shofar. So So that's what the Gemara teaches us, the Chidush, that even though half of him is exempt, because half of him has a status like a woman, because we said a slave, a non-Jewish slave that's sold to a Jew, goes to the mikveh. You got that, Mark? He goes to the mikveh. He gets a circumcision. He's obligated mitzvahs like a woman. Once he's free, he's obligated mitzvah like a man. And since he is half free and half slave, he has to go ahead and he's obligated in hearing the shofar. Is that clear? Adam, you can hear the case? It was a non-Jew sold to a Jew. See, we don't want to see, he's half free, right? So they have to see how they work it, but they have to figure out exactly how, how to divide the freedom and the slavery. There's an idea, we don't want you to own a non-Jewish slave around your house who doesn't go to mikveh, who doesn't take upon himself mitzvahs. That's not a healthy thing to have around your house, such a person who's not keeping Torah and mitzvot. So at least since he's a non-Jew and he's a slave, so he's obligated in mitzvahs like a woman. See, if a regular Jew from birth wants to sell himself as a slave, right, Adam, that guy will be obligated in mitzvahs 100%. Let's say Ruvain stole and he blew the money that he stole and he doesn't have money to pay it back. So the court could sell him as a slave for a certain amount of time and his work will pay back what he stole. All right, that's different than Evet Ivri versus Evet Khan. Exactly. Evet Ivri is a Jew from birth who was sold into slavery, and he goes out. You can't sell him more than 6 years. There's a max on how much you can sell a Jew, and after 6 years, he goes out free. And if he says after 6 years, he says, I want to remain a slave, then you pierce his ear, right? You're familiar with the story about piercing the ear. But this contract is supposed to end. The max you're supposed to sell him is at 6 years. Hashem does not want this Jew from birth to be a slave. Right. So exactly. A Jewish slave, if you're a Jewish slave born from birth Jewish, you are obligated before he was sold as a slave, was obligated in all the mitzvot. Now that he's sold as a slave, still obligated in all the mitzvot. But a non-Jew who was sold as a slave to a Jew, now he goes to the mikveh, he gets a circumcision, but he is not obligated in all the mitzvot like a man. He's obligated in all the mitzvot just like a woman is. Whatever a woman is obligated, he's obligated. Because of his as a slave. But once he becomes free, he becomes obligated in all the mitzvot. Okay, so the Gemara says, now we have the tumtum. The tumtum is man whose status is unknown because it's covered up. His status is, his private area is covered up with a membrane, and it's not clear what he is. So he eino motzi lo et mino v'lo et she'ena mino. Now, let's say blowing the shofar. This tumtum, we don't know. He's either a man, he's either a woman. Maybe one day, if they do something and they're able to reveal what he really is, you'll find out whether he's a man or a woman. And because of that, you don't know. So could he blow the shofar for a regular Jew? Can't. He can't blow it because he might be a woman, and a woman can't blow the shofar for a man. Now, even if there's another tumtum, let's say he has a brother that's also a tumtum, right? He can't blow for his brother either. Why? Because he might be a female and his brother might be a male. Okay.
I never heard of this tum-tum.
Yeah. The tumtum in English, they have a. You never heard of? Most probably they have they don't translate it in English over here, but someone is born with genitals covered by a thick membrane. That's what the tumtum is. So,
Oh.
so it could be that today, Mark, it could be that today they might do some operation to be able to remove that membrane to be able to see what it is. But until that operation is done, that kid is on the status of that person is unknown. So yes, what do you say, Adam? We'll leave it over. Yes, what do you want to say?
No, that back then they probably didn't have the idea of chromosomes, so they didn't.
So would that be halakhic question? You know what you could rely on? You know,
You can have female chromosomes and present like a male, or I think it's actually more common to have male chromosomes. And then if you're like have a disease that makes you have no testosterone and all estrogen, you can be a male at your cellular level but present like a female. But
yes, I don't know that they're going to rely on these type of tests. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And then it says, but this androgynous who has signs of both a male and a female. Now he's now having signs of a male and a female. The question is, what is the question? What status that has? Does that makes him a boy? That makes him a girl? That makes him something else? So being that's the case, whatever they are, that androgynous cannot blow a shofar for a man, but that androgynous could blow a shofar for another androgynous, because this one is either a man. If you're a man, the other guy's a man. If you're a woman,
Is it the same status as the half slave?
no. The androgynous is not the same status because the half slave it's clear as David said, the half slave is obligated 100% on the part of that he's a half slave. He's obligated 100%.
How about the other 50%? You don't count that?
Okay, good. So the other 50% is not obligated, but when he blows the shofar, or we're going to see if he can blow, or he might not be able to blow the shofar. We're going to talk about that. But if but he has to hear the shofar on a Torah level. The guy who is a man.
So that means a woman can't blow a shofar for a half slave.
Correct.
And a half slave could blow a shofar for a man.
But no, he has a problem. The half slave has a problem because part of him is not obligated. So he can't blow for a man because half of him is patur. So
Okay, but you're not qualifying. If you're telling me 100% he has to hear it, then you're not acknowledging the part of him that has to that could blow it or not blow it.
Right. So we're acknowledging that because
he has to blow it, but he can't blow it for someone else.
And the Gemara says, right, he's obligated and he can't blow. The Gemara is going to say he's not even going to be able to. The Gemara is going to say his opinion. The Gemara is not even able to blow for himself.
Thank you.
But he might not be able to.
1 second, I have to lock this.
He's going to be different than these people in a sense. Meaning, we're saying they're all obligated to hear the shofar. The guy who's a half a slave, the guy whose genitals are covered, the guy who has signs of both are obligated to hear the shofar. But some are obligated, definitely, because we know for sure they're obligated. Or we know for sure the half slave is obligated. The tumtum and the androgynous, their obligation comes out of doubt, not out of definite. Meaning we don't. It's not definite that they have to blow, but meaning they might be exempt because this might be a girl, but it might not be a girl, and therefore they have to blow. They're blowing out of doubt that they might be. However, the half slave has a definite obligation to blow. That I just want to point out that's the difference. Even though they're all blowing, but they're all blowing for different reasons, Mark. That's why, and therefore there will be ramifications depending on who they could blow maybe for, or even if they might even be, and it'll come out there's even a more strict that the half slave can't even blow for himself when the tumtum and the guy whose parts are covered could blow for himself, and the guy who has who has signs of male and female, could blow for himself. But the tumtum, the one who we don't know, whose parts are covered up, cannot blow for another, for anybody else. So that's what the Gemara says. And the Gemara says, androgynous motzi mino. So we said that the androgynous, the one who has signs of both a male and a female, he could go ahead and blow for another androgynous, because whatever you are, that's what the other guy is. In contrast with the tumtum, who we don't know whether he's a boy or girl because it's covered up. And therefore the tumtum cannot blow for another tumtum. Of a lower she'ena mino, but an androgynous who has signs of a male and a female, being he might be a female, so he cannot blow for someone who's not an androgynous. He cannot blow for a regular person. Now the continues. Mi shechetzio eved v'chetzio ben chorin. Mark, we're going now to the case of the guy is a half slave. Now we turn the page. Now we're on
I'm coming in.
29A3. So the half slave that's a chetzio ever ben chorin eina motzi lo et shemino. If you're a half slave and you are a half ben chorin, right? Half slave and half free person cannot blow for somebody else who is also a half slave, because the part of you is exempt, right? This guy who's half free and half a slave, right, Ralph? He's half free and half a slave. So 50% of him is exempt and 50% of him is obligated. So if he blows the shofar, so it's coming from 50% that's not obligated, that 50% can't cover the 50% of someone else who is obligated. Certainly he cannot blow the shofar for someone who is a full-fledged free person. Okay. Now the Gemara addresses this right there. Amamai. You want the Gemara? You want to? Is that Rosh Hashana? That's not Rosh Hashana. Amamai. The master said, right? Hakol chayavim b'tkiya shofar. Everybody is obligated in the blowing of the shofar, and we said who's the everybody? And then we enumerate who are those people? Kohanim, Leviim, Yisraelim. Kohanim, Leviim, Yisraelim. 29A3. They're obligated to shofar. So the Gemara says, Pshita. Isn't it obvious that Kohanim? If these people are not obligated to shofar, who would be obligated? What are you going to tell me, Kohanim, Leviim, Yisrael? Of course, they're part of the Jew. They're the men of the Jewish community. So if these are not obligated, who would be obligated? So it's obvious that the Kohanim, Leviim, Yisraelim are obligated to blow the shofar. So what are you going to tell me that David Cohen and Ralph Batesh and Mark Ajmi and Adam are obligated to shofar? It's obvious. Who's obligated to shofar? All Jewish men. Kohanim, Leviim, Yisraelim. So the Gemara says, you know what? Really, the chidush, the reason why we say it is because of the Kohanim. There's some unique chidush, novelty by the Kohanim. You might have thought that they're not obligated in shofar. Okay, but then you would say, osik mitzvah potem and a mitzvah, but when they're not busy, they have to do it, right? So, and remember, right, they would be obligated to do Brit Milah, even though that, they have to figure it out. But remember, Adam, there's a lot of Kohanim to switch off. You don't have to every second. And also remember, how long does the blowing of the shofar take? On a Torah level, we said there's 3 breaking sounds preceded by a tkiyah, followed by 9 sounds. It takes about a couple of minutes, 2 minutes. To the Gemara, what? So the Gemara is like this. I might have thought, you might have thought, that Yom Hoyuk Siv Yom Trua Yelachem. It should be this day. This is going to be a day for you for sounding of a crying sound of blowing the shofar. This is for you, right? This is a special day for you. So you might have thought Yom Trua this is the day of blowing. There's one day for you in the year they have to blow. So who are the people that have one day a year? Every Yisrael, every Yisrael and Levi, let's say they have one day of year they have to blow the shofar. There's no other day of the year that they have the responsibility to blow the shofar. However, therefore, it's talking to the regular Jew. But the Kohen, who doesn't have just one day a year blowing, they have multiple days of the year. They're obligated in the sounds of blowing they have throughout the year. When every Rosh Chodesh, the Kohanim are commanded to blow on the holidays, on Rosh Chodesh with the trumpets in the Beit HaMikdash. So it's not Yom Teruah. This is a day of blowing for you. It's one day of blowing. You have many days of blowing. So if the Torah is saying, giving a commandment and saying to the people, men, this is your day of blowing, which sounds like this one day. So who is the Torah talking to? The Torah is talking to not the Kohanim, because the Kohanim is not about one day. The Kohanim have many days of the year. So therefore, you might have said that since it says by the Kohanim was katem b'chatzotrot alotechem, you blow the trumpets. So I might have said that the Kohanim are not included. This mitzvah of blowing on Rosh Hashanah is not talking to the Kohanim. It's talking to all other Jews, because it says this is the day of blowing for you, as if this is the one day that's designated for you. There's no other time. But if you have other times that are designated for you blowing, so we're not talking to you. We're addressing to the people who don't have another time. So therefore, Kamash Malan, therefore the Tana comes to teach us that even though it says this is the day of blowing, which you might have thought meant this is the only day for you of blowing, and therefore we're talking specifically to the non-Kohanim, comes the Tana teaches us that even if you're a Kohen and you have other days of the year, every Rosh Chodesh you're blowing, still you have the mitzvah, an additional day of the year for you to be blowing, which is day of Rosh Hashanah. So that's what the Gemara wanted to say, the necessity of spelling out that the Kohanim have the mitzvah on Rosh Hashanah as well, in addition. Right. Yeah. So Mark is asking, but if they're obligated the rest of the year, so they're part of this type of mitzvah of blowing, so they should. Right. So right. So what Rashi explains, according to the Rashi explains, is that the Gemara is using the pasuk. The Torah gives the commandment of blowing the shofar. The Torah writes the language, this is the day of blowing for you. This is your day of blowing, which could be interpreted, this is your day, no other day. Like I tell you, Mark, this is your day. This is your birthday. This is your day of, but if you have other birthdays, this is your birthday. It means this is your birthday. You don't have other birthdays that year. It's one birthday. So if I tell you this is your day of blowing, sounds like this is the day, and this is the only day. This is the designated day. Right, exactly. If you have other days, good morning, welcome. If you have other days, then we're not talking, when you're not part of that commandment. Because obviously we're talking to you and saying this, if you have, if someone already had their birthday last week and we say, you know what, we're celebrating someone else's birthday today, that means that's not that person. So if I say, this is your day of blowing, if every month you're blowing, and I'm saying this is your day, as if this is the only day, so we're not talking to the Kohanim, but the Kohanim are involved in blowing every Rosh Chodesh. They're blowing. Asaf, is that clear?
Keep going.
Okay. So the Gemara shoots back, me dummy. The Gemara says, how could you compare? The Gemara says, you wanted to say that, you would have thought that if I tell you this is your day of blowing, Yom Teruah, it's specifically talking to people who have no other day of blowing. And the Kohanim have another day of blowing. But the Kohanim do not have another day of blowing shofar. They have another day of blowing trumpet. It's a different instrument that's used on Rosh Chodesh. It's a trumpet. It's not a shofar. So, what?
Why are we saying so?
That's what the Gemara is. That's the Gemara's response back. You can't say that. You can't say it's because you would have thought that it's not referring to them. Because there on Rosh Chodesh they blow the trumpets, and but over here is shofar. They're blowing shofar. So if it tells you this is your day of blowing shofar, this is it. And this is the only this is and if it's unique for the Kohanim as well, they don't have another day of the blowing of the shofar. Even though we could think about the fact we said that on Yovel everybody has the blowing of the shofar, we have to think about that. So the Gemara says, Ella, the Gemara says it's. I said we remember we said on Yovel, on the 50th year, the Jubilee year, there is the blow on Yom Kippur. There's the blowing of the shofar. So the Gemara says, so the Gemara says, Ella Itzter. You know why we need to tell me that the Kohanim have to blow a shofar on Rosh Hashanah? Because you might have thought the following. I might have thought, Holotnan, Shaveh HaYovel. So now the Gemara is going to bring up the point what I just mentioned about the Yovel. Shaveh HaYovel Rosh Hashanah. Yovel is similar to Rosh Hashanah, L'Tkiyah U'Lebrachot. Right? We learned about this fact that on Yom Kippur of Yovel, they blow the shofar. And it's a sign of freedom. Everybody goes back, the fields go back, the slaves go back. That's when they go back on Yovel. And we do the same blows that we do on Rosh Hashanah, the Tkiyah, the Truah, Tkiyah, 3 times. That said, we do that on Yovel of Yom Kippur. Mashiach will come, we'll have it back. Also, the Amidah, the Shemona Esrei, is a 9 bracha Shemona Esrei with king, like we spoke about Malchiot, Shofar, Zechronot. We talk about God's kingship, and we talk 10 verses of Shofar. We talk about Zechronot. That will be the same Musaf that we have this past Rosh Hashanah. The Musaf of Rosh Hashanah will be the same Musaf on Yovel. So now we were this man the idei b'mitzvat hayovel. So we would have said someone who is part of the mitzvah of Yovel, that all the laws of Yovel apply. Idei b'mitzvat Rosh Hashanah. Someone who is included, meaning we see there's a connection to Yovel and Rosh Hashanah. We see a very big similarity, right? The shofar here, the shofar here. The way you do the shofar here is the way you do the shofar there. The way you pray here is the way you pray there. So, now what about the Kohanim? So we would have said, if you're included in Yovel, in the laws of Yovel, in all the laws of Yovel, so you're that type of person who's included in Rosh Hashanah. But if you are someone, if you are not disconnected in Yovel, because there are certain laws regarding Kohanim that Yovel does not apply to, which we'll see. So if you're not a part of the Yovel completely, so you would have thought you're not part of Rosh Hashanah completely. Because we said Rosh Hashanah and Yovel, right? They work together. So if you're the type of guy that Yovel applies to, so you're the type of guy that Rosh Hashanah applies to. But if you're an independent when it comes to Yovel, so maybe you're independent when it comes to Rosh Hashanah. That's the chidush. You might have thought the Kohanim, since the Kohanim don't have all the laws of Yovel don't apply to them. What'd you say? Right, Levi. Okay, we'll have to see about the. I think Levi. It says Kohanim and Leviim. Right, they both have. Right, that's the chiddush applies to Leviim too, because also Leviim have the same status regarding Yovel, they're both different than everybody else. So you would have thought Kohanim and Leviim would not be obligated to shofar because they're different when it comes to Yovel. Right, right. We're not going with that. That you might have thought would not be obligated in shofar, Kohanim and Leviim. Therefore, the writers tell us that David Cohen, and Ralph Batesh, even the Kohanim and the Leviim are obligated to shofar. You might have thought that they don't work with the norm. They're special. They don't have they're not part of Yovel in certain areas. And Yovel and shofar go what? Hand in hand. So if you're not part of Yovel, maybe you're not part of the Rosh Hashana story with the shofar. And that's the chidush. That's what the Gemara says. Kohanim, and they put in my Gemara and Leviim as well, like Mark was pointing out. Since they're not in the mitzvah, there is in one of the laws, in one of the mitzvot, that regarding return of lands that happened during Yovel is different when it comes to the Kohanim and Leviim. Did not. We learned in the Mishnah. Kohanim uLeviim mochrim la'olam. The Kohanim and the Leviim have the ability to go ahead and sell. They're able to go ahead and sell their houses, right? Because there's certain things. It says the language is like this. It says they could sell their properties at any time. Now it says like you see a Yisrael who sells his house. Let's say you have a house that you had inherited, the original houses that they had when they came to Eretz Yisrael, that was divided among the Kohanim. If when Yisrael sells his house that was located in the city that had walls from the time of Yeshua ben Nun, there are certain laws. He must redeem the house. He has to redeem the house within the first year. If he doesn't redeem the first house within the first year, he can't redeem it after the first year. The sale remains. I mean, you have a year to buy back your house. That's what the Torah says. If you sell a house, you own a house, and they call it the ancestral house. It's going back from from the beginning. The house that the family had from the beginning, and at the time of Yeshua ben Nun, it was located in the city. And that house, if you sold that house, you have 1 year to redeem that house. You sold the house. You have a right. The Torah says that when you sell your house, you have 1 year to buy it back. But we'll see. Or if you don't do it, buy it back within a year, you lose it forever. Kohanim and Leviim have no restriction. They could redeem their house anytime. That's the difference. The Kohen, you needed money. You needed cash. So you sold the house. So the Torah gives you that ability. You have 1 year to redeem it, but the Kohanim and the Leviim, they can redeem it forever. Now, morning, Gary. Steve, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Okay. So that's what the Gemara says. So the Goalim la'olam, and they may redeem it at any time. Meaning, if you are the Yisrael, if you sell your land, if you sell a land, you have a property, right? It produces wheat, whatever it produces, and then you sell it to somebody. You had the first 2 years, you cannot redeem. The first 2 years you cannot redeem that property. That property, the buyer has even if you have money, you want to buy it back. It's ancestral. Also, an ancestral field. If you sell that ancestral field, the first 2 years you can't, and then you come back, you got the money. But 1 year with the house. The house is a 1 year. This is all right. And different thing. The house, you have 1 year to redeem. On land, you can't redeem it the first 2 years. Meaning, if your relative comes up to that, I got money for you to buy back your property. You can't. You can't force the seller to sell it back to you. But 3 years onward, you could go ahead. Right? No, yeah, you sold it to them. You sold them the land, and now you came back. You got the money. You want to redeem, buy back your property because you want it back. Oh, so it's a 3. So here it says, right? You have 3 and on, 3 and on, 3 and on to redeem it. The Torah wants to give a buyer who buys the land from someone certain rights. That it can't be that you bought a property and a day later the guy could come and say, "I got the money here. You have to I buy it back from you." No, you bought the property. You got it for a minimum of 2 years. To be continued. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for joining. Steve, every word is a mitzvah.